Today is March the 1st, 2017. I've been getting a number of comments in my YouTube videos, and they get thrown into a category of possible spam. And used to, YouTube would let me look at them and check them as not spam, and then they would be put over into the regular category where we could communicate with each other. But now there's no box to check. If they think it's spam, then that's the end of that story. I can't communicate with you guys. So if you ask me a legitimate question here, when I say legitimate question, something that I think I may be able to answer, then and you don't ever hear from me, then try again, because I can't do anything about it, and I read that there's a lot of people complaining about it. But the point is, there was a good gentleman the other day that asked a question that I actually might have a little bit of information on. I'm not an expert on it, but I did work on a project like this about 21 years ago while I was still at White Sands and worked for Lockheed. It's called zero sequence harmonics. The complaint was that your musical instruments, your guitar amplifiers, sound better in one place than another, from one venue to the next. That could be for several reasons. One could be you got it on a very long extension cord and you don't have 120 volts anymore. Under load, maybe you got 100 volts. That's going to drop your power a lot. So that's one thing to think about, is what is the actual line voltage going into your equipment. Another one is a problem that's become very big. And even 21 years ago, we had a serious problem with it at one of our illuminating radar stations, where the azimuth elevation motors are big DC motors, and they would put a tremendous load on the UPS and actually throw it offline. Well, after doing some research and going up there with some meters, some harmonic recording meters, what we all found out was that we had a lot of harmonics, and they were actually ended up being defined as zero sequence harmonics. What the zero sequence harmonic is if you look at it like in a spectrum analyzer, this being the fundamental frequency. Let's just keep it simple, like call this 60 hertz. Then if the offending frequency, it gets a lot more complicated than this, but basically you'll have a second harmonic out here and you'll have a third out here that's really huge. It's certainly not going to be as large as the fundamental, but you have a very large third harmonic. They call it, I'm not going to be able to solve your problem, but I'm going to give you what you can search on the internet, and this might help you. It's called zero sequence harmonics. Zero sequence harmonics, and the zero sequence harmonics are hopefully solved by zero sequence harmonic filters. Now, most of the filters are great big things that feed factories and large installations, but I saw one on eBay just the other day. They're not cheap. It was like $750, and I think it was probably in the 3, 4, possibly 5 kVA range, something that people like us could afford. They also made a point that it worked even at low secondary loads, meaning that they implied that these big zero sequence harmonic filters only work well when they're loaded to their rated current. Well, they claim that theirs works even at low current, so that might be what you need. And what causes this is linear power supplies, like the power supplies that we're familiar with, like a power transformer into a 5U4, into a capacitor or choke input filter, pi filter, whatever. Those are called linear power supplies. They draw about the same amount of current all the time. When you load them heavy, obviously they draw more primary current. But what the world is full of right now, bazillions of them, are switching power supplies. And switching power supplies turn on and off abruptly, and they present a continuously varying inductive load to the source voltage. That's the problem. So your pretty sine wave that you wish you had going into your equipment doesn't look like that anymore. It looks like that. You know, it's really jagged. It's a mess. And anytime you have, I'm making this, you know, just grotesque just to make the point. Anytime you have abrupt changes, anytime you go from this to this or to that, anytime you have abrupt changes, you have a lot of harmonics in there that are going to, some of them get through your power supply and into your audio equipment and ultimately all the way to your speaker. That's probably what a lot of your problems are. Computers, fluorescent lights, fax machines, copy machines, just about everything we have nowadays are run off of switching power supplies because they're cheap, they're small, they don't get hot, they're very efficient, they're very cheap, and they work. But they do create this tremendous noise on our source voltage. And the lower the impedance of the source voltage, the easier it is to distort it. So that's probably about all I can tell you. I could tell you a great big long story that that I just absolutely loved working on that project for, because I got to model it. I had to model it with P-Spice, but this is just my own little grandstanding and moment of bragging. But it turned out that one was actually full wave rectified and one was half wave. The full wave rectified actually ended up with the predominant third harmonic. The one that was half wave rectified, which we thought was a problem, actually ends up with a predominant second harmonic, which was actually okay. We did put in a large zero sequence harmonic filter, and it did help. It did keep. What happens is these big illuminating radar stations have a very large disc, and the azimuth and elevation motors are DC. But as they position and they illuminate the area, you know, where the drones are flying through, so that the other recording stations around the missile range could pick them up. As these big azimuth elevation motors turn on and off, they create a huge inductive load on and off and on and off, and created these zero sequence harmonics. Well, that's that. But it's really exciting. I love this stuff. But I hope that the zero sequence harmonics and the zero sequence harmonic filters give you something to look for on the internet. Maybe you can find some small ones that you can afford and can carry around. Will it completely solve your problem? I don't know. I can't make one here. I can't. You know, I like to build things. I like to measure it before. I like to measure it afterwards. I like to compare measurements from one thing to another. But this is not something I can do physically. This is just something I know about technically and was able to do a long time ago, but I can't repeat it. So I hope this helps. Hope this helps reduce some of the noise. And again, don't forget about your actual line voltage. That could be a serious problem. I made a video sometime back about even if you drop the 120 volts down to 110, your power drops significantly, your distortion rises significantly. Just a way of life. Might just need bigger wire. You know, maybe you need to run some number 10 wire out to your equipment, or do the best you can. I know that we don't always have control of those kinds of things, but good luck, and thanks for watching. I hope this helps.